Most people indicate that their biggest nutritional challenge is emotional and stress eating. So that's what we're going to chat about today. And I'm going to try and give you some strategies to help you in your emotional and stress eating behaviors. So, like I mentioned, a lot of people indicate that they struggle with emotional eating or stress eating. Now, I would say that it's about food, but it's also not about food. I would honestly say that the big problem is that we don't actually have the skills that we need to feel, handle, process, and cope with difficult emotions and difficult scenarios in our life. And so as a result, we try to problem solve, but we do it with a behavior or a coping mechanism that probably isn't healthy and it isn't beneficial to us, like going to food for coping with our emotions. So we're going to chat a little bit about emotional eating and then some strategies. So the first thing with emotional eating that I love hearing is that somebody is aware that they are engaging in emotional or stress eating. There are a lot of people, I think, that would actively come to me and say, like, I know that I stress eat, I know that I emotional eat. And that is honestly the first step. Being aware of it, that you do it, is the first step. You will often hear things like coming out of denial is the first step to improving anything that we have going on in our lives. So the fact that you are aware of it is so key and important. And like I mentioned, just the awareness of the fact that, you're probably trying to solve some sort of problem in your life, but you're doing it in a way that probably isn't beneficial, and it's actually not going to solve the problem, because the reality is when we go to food to solve a problem, that problem is still there and we're not actually doing something about it. So step number one, or strategy number one, I find, is just awareness that you're doing it. Now, the next strategy is to go ahead and stress and emotional eat. That might seem counterintuitive, but oftentimes when we're like resisting and battling against the fact that we emotional or stress eat, allowing ourselves to do it, giving ourselves permission, takes the pressure off. And sometimes you might even find the fact that, like, you're aware and you're like, hey, I'm about to stress or emotional eat right now, and I'm going to allow myself to do it, can relieve the pressure in such a way that it might decrease your tendency of emotional or stress eating. Now, strategy number 3 is I want you to be curious, or get curious, about your emotional and stress eating. And this is going to be in a myriad of different ways. So I say, like, put on your scientist hat or your archaeology hat, but I really want you to get curious about everything that is going on when it comes to emotional and stress eating. What events do you have going on in your life? What stressors do you have going on in your life that might be contributing to you wanting to go use food to cope with some emotions or some circumstances in your life? Or maybe get curious about everything to do with, like, emotional eating. When are you doing it? How are you doing it? Are you doing it fast? Are you doing it in the kitchen? Are you eating in the car? Are you eating in your bathroom? What sort of foods do you typically eat? How often does it happen? I mentioned how fast are you eating? Try to gather as much data as possible about your episodes or all the situations surrounding those circumstances. You might start to notice maybe some patterns about the environment that you're in or the people that you're around that contribute to you engaging in behaviors of emotional and stress eating. And I have a worksheet that I will share that you can use this to kind of break the chain and start to dig into and really get curious about why you might be emotional and stress eating. And I also mentioned that, oftentimes it's a way that we're trying to cope and solve a problem. It's just not a healthy way. And so strategy number 4 is to slow it down. This is a tool that I often teach my clients just to have a healthier relationship and behaviors with food and eating, is to eat slowly. So when it comes to emotional and stress eating, slow it down, do it slowly, chew slowly, swallow slowly, maybe even actually just smell and taste and enjoy the food that you're eating. Be present and aware with it. Don't do it distracted. Like, if you notice maybe you eat while you're watching TV and you're completely distracted, try to eat undistracted. Actually be present in what you're doing and enjoy the food that you're doing. And then strategy number 5 is to create a nourishment menu. So with getting curious and being curious and trying to figure out all of the things that go into, let's say, emotional and stress eating, creating a nourishment menu is really us like thinking about and digging into what we truly want and need in a moment where we're feeling, some sort of emotion or some sort of maybe some sort of stressor that's going on. So really think about like, and getting curious, but then also in creating a nourishment menu, what do you really need? Like maybe it's that you need like some sort of support. So go and ask a family or a friend for a hug or to talk to them, call somebody, text somebody, go pet your pet or maybe your kids. Maybe that's like go for a walk and remove yourself from the environment. Maybe that's go listen to your favorite music or a podcast or watch something funny that's going to make you laugh. Maybe it's engaging in some purposeful breathing to regulate your nervous system and to regulate your emotions. So really think about like, what is it that I actually need right now that I am going to food for? What is this that I need to provide myself with? And so with this nourishment menu, think of activities that might be considered self-care activities or activities to take care of yourself, that it's going to help you to be healthier and to meet your needs. You are a human with needs, and so it might be emotional needs, it might be physical needs. So what is it that you really need? Maybe it's you have a lot going on and you've been really busy with work and you haven't had a lot of time in your life for like laughter or play. So maybe you just need some sense of like relief and you just need to go do something that's enjoyable. So what are some nourishment menu items that you can put on your menu that are going to provide you with a little bit more joy in your life or whatever it might be that you need? So create this list of nourishment menu items and also put that menu somewhere visible, because whenever I want you to see it regularly so that you can think about whenever you have the situation that you're going to go and use something on your nourishment menu. And also part of the nourishment menu is to be able to test and see which things work to help you to lessen your tendency to stress or emotional eat. Maybe some things work, maybe some things don't. And then also it's to try and just help to, maybe at first we're not going to completely eliminate emotional or stress eating, but lessen how often it happens. And so that over time, maybe we've reconditioned ourselves to go to things in which we can cope with our emotions in a healthy, beneficial, resourceful way. And then the last strategy is to take a approach of self-compassion. It might seem counterintuitive, but being kind to ourselves and giving ourselves a break and understanding even that this is a normal behavior and not beating ourselves up and showing ourselves compassion in that this is a way that we're trying to solve a problem, but that we're also trying to change these behaviors right now and try and implement some of these strategies. So those are all the strategies that I have to help you with emotional and stress eating. And overall, the goal is to start to try and lessen and change our tendency to emotional and stress eat, to lessen and change our tendency to go to food to cope with our emotions, and to try and go to things that are actually going to help us to handle and process and cope with some of these difficult things we might be feeling or that we might be experiencing in our life. Because it might be that we are truly maybe really sad or really overwhelmed, and what we need to do is feel those things and then also to process those and maybe go do something else to help us to process those things rather than to go to food. And the reality of it is too, is sometimes eating is soothing. And so we might choose in certain moments to emotional eat. That's okay. But overall, I would say the goal is to learn other ways of coping with our emotions than to go to food to do those things. So I hope this was helpful for you, and I hope that you use the worksheet and these tools to help you improve your tendency to emotional or stress eat.